when you're early on in your entrepreneurship, you do not know yet what your customer wants. You have
Yeah.
to find it. Your role is to be putting together MVPs or demos, mini prototypes with the
Yeah.
smallest amount of effort possible and see which ones are actually solving the problem.
So you are the guy who is in agriculture and AI. That's a mix that not many people go in, because the reason for that is very obvious. That most of the people look at AI with the perspective of tech. They do not look at the other applications in AI, like agriculture itself as well. So how did you come up with that decision?
In order to build a team, you need to understand what stage your company is and how big you're going to have a team. You're an entrepreneur. This is at very early stages in your company. Each one of your team members have to be seasoned, need to be able to do things on their own, need to be
Yeah.
able to not require much supervision. You want people who will break any obstacles. So it tends to be 5 to 10 years of experience on average. There's always exceptions. People that can communicate with each other, people that are fast learners.
Quality is a habit, and it can't be developed. It can be developed, but it cannot be transformed or something like that. So you have to build your habits from the beginning. So that is something programmers have to understand, and nobody does. Hello everyone, my name is Ali. I'm the CEO of Al-burraq Technologies. Today we have another tech star with us. Lawrence, how are you?
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for giving us your time. So, Lawrence, it would be great if you can introduce yourself to our audience, and they can connect with you in that.
Hi, it's nice to be here. My name is Lawrence Sibarria. I've been in the tech industry for about 20 years right now. I'm doing right now my second startup in agriculture using artificial intelligence.
Right. So, you are the guy who is in agriculture and AI. That's a mix that not many people go in, because the reason for that is very obvious. That most of the people look at AI with the perspective of tech. They do not look at the other applications in AI, like agriculture itself as well. So how did you come up with that decision?
That's a great question. I've been in agriculture for 6 years now. I started there when I built a robotics company to do automated process in agriculture. And right
Right.
now, what I'm seeing is that artificial intelligence is being used widely everywhere. You have the big giants, OpenAI, and a number of others doing work. As an entrepreneur, it's very hard to compete with them. But if you have domain specific knowledge and you can apply these new technologies to your domain, you have an advantage and you can build value that no one else has. As an entrepreneur,
Right.
always try to find what can you bring. And agriculture is an underserved market. There's a number of other factors that make it the correct time to try to use artificial intelligence as well as robotics and move the farm to what we call the new smart farm. It's something that I believe will happen in the upcoming years.
Right, right. That makes a lot of sense. But with that, I have another question as well. You were working with NVIDIA and these type of companies, which means you're working with top tier of the companies. So, coming from that background, how was this decision to start your own business? Was it easy? Was it hard? What kind of challenges you had in that decision?
That's a great question. When I was at NVIDIA, NVIDIA is one of the best companies I work with.
Yeah.
You get well paid, you have amazing colleagues that works with you, but at some point what you realize is that you end up in a ceiling. You end up in a ceiling because it's a very big company. Although you're well paid, you're good, your work tends to be narrowly focused on whatever the company needs, which could be one small area. Your ability to innovate, to come up with new ideas and to deploy them is somewhat limited. NVIDIA is like a large company. Imagine you have an idea that could bring up 10 million revenue. That's quite a bit of revenue. For NVIDIA, it's not worth the distraction.
Yeah.
Your position doesn't go in there. So
Right.
the thing to move is somewhat personal. At some point, I said, I have enough savings. I have enough money to live. I don't lack for nothing. I would rather spend time trying to do things. Entrepreneurship is high risk. Most
Yeah.
entrepreneurs fail. Honestly, let's be honest. It's a hard road to go. You
Yeah.
need to be convinced. You need to be committed. Be sure that you're going there. Be sure that you have backing from either your family or your spouse. And then go for it. I
I
made that
can second
decision.
that.
I made the decision, and I don't regret it. I would be a lot well off if I was still at NVIDIA, and likely I would have less headaches, less stress, less uncertainty. But the when you're an entrepreneur, you have larger responsibilities. Also means you learn a lot more things. You interact with different types of people. I find it a lot more rewarding, but it's not for everyone.
Yeah, I can second that. You can see the smile on my face, and I can second that because I can understand the kick you are talking about of being an entrepreneur, and you miss that in the job sector. So I can second that, and with that kick, there comes a lot of responsibility as well. A responsibility of the society, responsibility of your team, responsibility of your customers. So that comes along with that kick that you enjoy the most.
Yes, yes, it does.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the team building. What are the topmost ingredients for you in order to build a team?
In order to build a team, you need to understand what stage your company is and how big you're going to have a team. You're an entrepreneur. This is at very early stages in your company. Each one of your team members have to be seasoned, need to be able to do things on their own, need to be
Yeah.
able to not require much supervision. You want people who will break any obstacles. So it tends to be 5 to 10 years of experience on average. There's always exceptions. People that can communicate with each other, people that are fast learners. Anything you're
Right.
doing in entrepreneurship most likely will be using new technology, which means you're constantly learning, reading papers, or seeing other new information appear there.
Right.
That's for very small teams. You need 3 people, select them, each one of them to be really good and committed to the mission, that they understand the challenges and they will push hard. If your team
Right.
grows a little bit bigger, then start looking for the characteristics of a team lead. The same good engineers that were your first three, they may go become a team lead and then may have some juniors or maybe not.
Right.
Characteristics for a team lead is ability to distribute. When you have even more work, you need to, how am I going to distribute? How am I going to help the more junior people grow? So you need to know what do you have and how the team will interact.
Okay.
One very curious thing. When I was early on, you want people who will effectively write crappy, bad code, will do whatever is needed to get to the end through whatever means.
I
And
can understand.
for prototypes, for demos, do that. But the
Yeah.
moment you're trying to actually start selling a product, you want to change the
Yeah.
mentality. And
Yes.
not everyone can do that switch.
Yes, yes, yes. I can understand. I think quality is a habit, and it can't be developed. It can be developed, but it cannot be transformed or something like that. So you have to build your habits from the beginning. So that is something programmers have to understand, and nobody does.
Yes, and it's very hard. A lot of the programmers I know, they do not like to write code that is bad. But when you're early on in your entrepreneurship, you do not know yet what your customer wants. You have
Yeah.
to find it. Your role is to be putting together MVPs or demos, mini prototypes with the
Yeah.
smallest amount of effort possible and see which ones are actually solving the problem.
Yeah, I can understand that, and I can see if the perspective you have with the customer and their needs as well, because you have to pivot later on. So in the beginning, you're just trying different solutions and then pivoting on the right one. So I can understand that. So from this one, my next question is about your first hire. When was your first hire?
My first hire was, let's see, I have 2 examples. At Verdant,
Okay.
the first hire that we had, they were all people within our network. You have so much riding on your first hire. It's preferable if it's someone from that has already worked in the past with you, that you know
Yeah.
you can work well with that person, you know that they can help you with the project that you have.
Yeah.
And
I was
we're not
going
with
to ask you the story of your first hire and how you convinced them to work with you.
in either case, the way I've convinced the first hires, I worked with them in the past. We
Okay,
have
cool.
good rapport. They like working with me. And at that position, I look for first hires that were in a steady, cushy job and tell them, hey, look, do you want to go and usually you start your company with a mission. You're helping agriculture in my case, but you could
Yeah.
help other types of customers. That cushy job, at the end of the day, come early on, you have a lot more freedom, you have a lot more say into what goes, then we'll have fun together. The first hire, normally you want to already pay them, so do not, you can give them something comparable to what they're making with a lot more freedom.
Yeah.
And talk with people, and usually you will get someone who will jump on with you. And the first hire we had at Verdant, they were actually out in LA, which is like 6 hours driving from here. This
Nice.
was well before remote work. And we did
Right,
a bit of
right, right.
remote work, and we had to ask them to fly over and spend here some days to be able to have time together. It was a big ask, yet we managed to do it because of the results and because of the vision. As an entrepreneur, you need to have a vision for your company. You need to sell that vision not only to your customers, but also to your prospective employees. What you're going to do, what is going to be good, why you will enjoy doing this, why do you want to come.
Right. I can understand your conversation and the importance of vision as well. You are saying a lot of right things. Are these based on your experience, or you have read a lot that you are saying all the nice things on this interview?
It's based on my experience. A couple of things we did right, and some others have done wrong. A lot of
Right.
times, the lessons I learned were through bad mistakes. I've made the mistake of earlier I said we first hires need to be someone that you work with well in the past, and they need to be somewhat senior. I tried to work with someone who was more on the junior side. No, no lacking on their side, but it was not conducive to what I was trying to do. Because it will, when you have someone junior, you need to spend time guiding them, and at an
Yeah.
early startup, you don't have time to waste.
Yeah.
That's one
I
of the
I
examples.
I can agree with that. So you see, in my conversation with you, there is no room of disagreement. I am agreeing to everything you are saying right now. So my
Happy
next,
there's this agreement. Uh, there's different experiences that we've had.
yeah, because I also have 11 years of experience, and all of that is managing my own companies and all the stuff, managing my teams, programming, and all the stuff. We have been selling resources we have been outsourcing resources to the US and UK mostly. So I've had different kind of experiences from the client side, from the programmer side. So I can see whatever you're saying, that is exactly what happens in the experiences as well.
Yes, yes, it does. I also I, I hear from you quite a bit of focus on customer, and that's one of those things for me. It was hard to learn. I had a big lesson in my previous company, and I'm learning it right now. You may have an idea, you may think it will be great for your field. I come from a tech background, so normally what's easier for me is to just go and implement the ideas.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean it's exactly what the customer will need. And I found it the hard way. You need to be constantly talking with customers, constantly validating that really what you think they will need is actually what they need. Or maybe that's not that big of a deal of a problem and they will
Yeah.
not pay or jump on it.
Exactly, exactly. And this is the problem with all of the techies. They live in their own bubble, and they think with their
Yes.
own mind of what customer is doing, what customer problems are, and they implement a solution according to their bubble. And when they go talk to the customer, and then they realize the need was entirely different. The customer is not irritated with the problems. They are thinking that that might be the problem. So for that, I've heard a good saying that fall in love with the problem, not with the solution. So you have to fall in love with the problem, go to the field, check it out, verify it, and then start implementing. And that is a hard lesson. All the techies I have seen, I've met, they all learn it through the experiences that they have to do it this way. They do not have to implement the solution first. They have to talk to the customer first.
Talk to the customer, listen them clearly. And when you implement something, try to do an implementation
Yeah.
that showcases your idea. I had this experience. I was telling a customer about the the product, the future, how great it will be. It wasn't going through because the customer lives on with their context. It wasn't getting there until we put together that one of our mini prototypes. That really took no more than a weekend to do. The customer's eyes open big and say, "Oh, you can do this. You can actually." And they saw not only the prototype, they saw how this could extend and where it will end up on. That is when the customer was actually, yes, we want this, and we managed to get what we needed, an agreement
Okay.
to test and to go forward.
Yeah.
Constantly
That.
talk with customers and try to find the what gets them excited, what gets them out of the mundane. That's what we call it.
I can second that. I can completely second that. Because you are in AI, so my last question is always about the AI. So, where do you see the future considering the innovation speed in the AI and the stuff related to that?
I see the future. When you look into AI, you have the very big companies putting hundreds of millions to innovation. I almost equate that to a few decades back when new processors were coming out. Think about AI as a brand new tool that we have. More than happy whenever there's a new model being out there because I can use it. Then I need to understand how can there's two key things to understand how can we use AI. One is how can you use AI on how can you bring your knowledge of your system? In my case, for things in agriculture, is it custom data sets? Is it how you use it? Is it how the customer will interact with it? Because that's a differentiation that way the customer will not go directly to OpenAI, will end up using your product. The second problem is how costly is it going to be? Whenever I reach out to investors, they ask me, well, if you're going to do anything with AI, it means you're going to need a few tens of millions to just be training. That's not necessarily the case. If what you use in AI is so low touch, then maybe it's not really AI or you're not adding any value on top of it. You need to really understand when you're using AI, what's the capabilities that are out there? What are you going to offer? How are you going to bridge from one place to another? And your bridging could be more knowledge, more performance, or making it a little more reachable. One of the examples, if you've been a techie, I, I've been able to go into the web and find piece of code for a long time. ChatGPT gave you some kind of piece of code. It was a little bit better, but it doesn't quite get there. Copilot wasn't that different from ChatGPT. The difference is it was so integrated that goes over there. There's innovations. Copilot is the example that I'm using here, where they just use the exact same technology that effectively is in GPT, but they integrate it on the developer's environment. You integrate on your customer's environment. That is huge. So on AI, constantly be on top, try to understand where the risks are going to come. AI is so unknown. I've been seeing it. I get my code and my prototype working, all of a sudden it stops. What? They change the backend. The answers are not deterministic. They're constantly switching. And all this prompt engineering is another headache that you have. How do you power this AI? The different AIs out there in the market, they behave differently, and some may be better for some of your use case. And you have to constantly be learning new technologies. There's this thing called agents right now, where instead of just using one AI, you use a collection of AIs. Each one could be cheaper, faster, and better at a smaller task, and you put them together. The, we're in such an early stage to do things on AI that I think there's going to be a few players will survive at the end, and some big companies and some of startups may be able to come out on top, having built on top of the knowledge. OpenAI does not want to service all the markets that other startups are trying to go for, trying to
Yeah.
survive. And, a few years ago, there was a lot more investment to go around. It was easier to create the startups. The startups
Yes.
today, they have to be smart on how they spend money, how they reach out to customers, meaning that there's fewer of them. In the past, there used to be so much chatter, and it's harder to get somewhere. Today, you will find today you will find easier time to get to your customers. Take advantage of that.
So, with that, thank you so much for the insights, Lawrence. And it was really great talking to you. I hope the audience also understood and they learned a lot from you. I did. And hopefully, people also will learn from you. Thank you so much. And I wish you very good luck for your startup. And let's stay in touch and keep talking in the future as well.